Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided his mining ship through the asteroid belt. The year was 2187, and he had been working alone in space for 3 months now. His ship, the Lucky Strike, was old but reliable. It had served him well during his 5 years as an asteroid miner. The silence of space surrounded him as he searched for valuable metals in the floating rocks. Jake preferred working alone. Other miners talked too much and slowed him down. Out here with just his ship and the stars, he felt at peace. His scanner beeped softly, showing a small object drifting between 2 large asteroids. Jake frowned and looked closer at the screen. The object was too regular to be a rock. It looked smooth and metallic. What the hell is that? Jake muttered to himself. He changed course and moved closer to investigate. As the Lucky Strike approached, Jake could see it was some kind of pod or small ship. It was badly damaged, with scorch marks covering its silver surface. Strange symbols were carved into the metal, symbols he had never seen before. Jake activated his external lights and cameras for a better look. The pod was about twice the size of his mining shuttle. It had a curved shape, almost like an egg, and it was spinning slowly in the darkness. His communication system crackled with static, but no signals came from the damaged craft. Jake tried to scan for life signs, but his equipment was basic mining gear, not designed for complex detection. Something made him want to help. Maybe it was because he had been alone for so long, or maybe it was simple human curiosity. Jake positioned his ship next to the pod and extended the docking arm. The pod was heavier than it looked. Jake's ship shook as he pulled it into the cargo bay. He sealed the bay and pressurized it before putting on his work suit to investigate. Up close, the damage was even worse. The pod had taken hits from some kind of energy weapon. Parts of the hull were melted, and Jake could see electronics sparking. Inside, through a crack in the wall, he found what looked like a door and tried to open it. The mechanism was dead, so Jake used his cutting torch to make a small opening. Warm air rushed out, carrying a strange, sweet smell. Jake peered inside with his flashlight. What he saw made him step back in shock. A woman lay unconscious on a curved bed inside the pod, but she was not human. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing in the light. Her hair was long and silver, flowing around her head like liquid metal. She was tall and thin, with features that were beautiful, but clearly not from Earth. The alien woman wore a simple white dress that seemed to be made from some kind of advanced fabric. Her breathing was shallow, and Jake could see dark blue blood on her clothes. She was badly hurt, but what made Jake's heart race was what she held in her arms. 3 oval objects, each about the size of a football, were pressed against her chest. They had the same pale blue color as her skin and seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. Jake stared for a long moment. He had never seen an alien before. Nobody had. Earth's government always said there was no proof of intelligent life in space. But here was evidence floating in his cargo bay. His first thought was to call Earth Command and report the discovery. It would make him famous and probably rich. But as he looked at the injured woman and the 3 glowing objects she protected, something stopped him. She looked like a mother protecting her children. Jake's own mother had died when he was 12. His father followed 2 years later, leaving Jake alone in the world. He had grown up in state homes and learned early that nobody cared about him except himself. But looking at this alien woman, Jake felt something he had not experienced in years. He wanted to help her. Jake carefully climbed into the pod and knelt beside the woman. Her breathing was getting weaker. Up close, he could see more injuries. Burns covered her arms, and there was a deep cut on her side that was bleeding badly. Gently touched her forehead. Her skin was warm, but felt different from human skin. Smoother somehow. The woman's eyes fluttered open, revealing bright golden irises that seemed to glow in the dim light. She looked at Jake with fear at first, then confusion. She tried to speak, but the words were not in any language Jake knew. They sounded musical, with soft tones that rose and fell like singing. The woman tried to sit up, but was too weak. She looked down at the 3 objects in her arms and spoke again, more urgently this time. Jake did not understand the words, but her meaning was clear. She was asking him to protect whatever she was holding. Jake nodded slowly. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The alien woman seemed to understand his tone. if not his words. She relaxed slightly but kept the 3 glowing objects pressed close to her body. Jake activated his suit's medical scanner and ran it over the woman. The readings were confusing because she was not human, but it was clear she was dying. She had lost too much blood and taken too much radiation damage. For a moment, Jake hesitated. Helping her would mean breaking about 50 different Earth laws. First contact with aliens was supposed to go through official channels. He was required to report any unusual discoveries immediately. But as he watched the woman struggle to breathe while protecting what he now realized must be her children, Jake made his decision. He carefully lifted the woman in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but her body was going limp. The 3 glowing objects rolled slightly, and Jake saw they were not just objects, but some kind of containers or eggs. Jake carried the woman to his ship's small medical bay. It was designed for treating mining injuries, not alien physiology, but it was better than nothing. He placed her on the examination table and began cleaning her wounds. The woman drifted in and out of consciousness as Jake worked. When she was awake, she would look at him with those golden eyes and whisper words he could not understand. Sometimes she would reach for the 3 containers, which Jake had placed on a nearby table. Jake's basic medical supplies were not enough for her injuries, but he did what he could. He stopped the bleeding and gave her water when she was conscious enough to drink. The woman's body seemed to respond well to human medical treatment, which surprised him. As he worked, Jake's ship computer analyzed the few words the woman had spoken. After an hour, it provided a rough translation of some phrases. She had been saying, "My children, and please help them," over and over. Jake looked at the 3 glowing containers with new understanding. They were not just eggs or storage devices. They were some kind of life support system for unborn alien children. The woman was a mother just like he had thought, and now she was dying while trying to protect her babies. Jake sat in his pilot's chair and stared out at the stars. He could still call Earth Command. They would send ships to collect the woman and her children. Scientists would study them, and governments would decide their fate. But Jake remembered being a child with no one to protect him. He remembered the cold feeling of being alone in a universe that did not care if he lived or died. This alien woman and her children were alone now, too. They had no one except him. Jake made his choice. Instead of calling for help, he set a course for his secret base on a small moon near Europa. It would take 2 weeks to get there, but it was the only safe place he knew. As the lucky strike turned away from Earth's direction, Jake looked back at the medical bay where the alien woman lay unconscious. He had no idea what he was getting himself into, but he could not abandon them. For the first time in years, Jake Morrison was not alone in space, and somehow that felt right. 2 weeks later, Jake's ship arrived at his hidden base on a small moon orbiting Europa. The base was built inside an old mining station that Jake had bought cheap and fixed up over the years. It had everything he needed to live alone for months. At a time, the alien woman had been unconscious for most of the journey. Jake had done his best to keep her alive, feeding her water and nutrients through a tube. Her breathing was still weak, but she had not gotten worse. Jake carefully moved the woman and her 3 glowing containers to the base's larger medical room. The containers had changed during the trip. They were brighter now and felt warmer when he touched them. Sometimes he could see movement inside them, like shadows shifting in the light. On the 3rd day at the base, the woman finally woke up properly. Jake was checking the containers when he heard her speak. "Where am I?" she said in clear English. Jake turned around, surprised. During the trip, his computer had been working to translate her language. It must have been teaching her English while she slept. "You're safe," Jake said. "My name is Jake. I found you in space." The woman tried to sit up, looking around the room with her golden eyes. She saw the 3 containers on a nearby table and reached for them with obvious relief. "My children," she whispered, pulling the containers close to her body. "Are they alive?" "I think so," Jake said. "They've been getting brighter and warmer. What are they exactly?" The woman looked at Jake for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust him. Finally, she spoke. "I am Zara of the Althari people. These are my children grow inside them until they are ready to be born." Jake sat down in a chair next to her bed. "What happened to you?" "Your ship was badly damaged." Zara's golden eyes filled with sadness. "There is a war on my world. My people are fighting each other. Some want peace, others want to conquer and destroy. My mate and I tried to escape with our children, but we were attacked. She touched one of the containers gently. My mate died protecting us. I barely got away in the escape pod, but it was damaged. I thought we would all die in space, but you didn't, Jake said. You're here now. You're safe. Zara looked at him with curiosity. Why did you help me? Your people and mine have never met before. You could have left me to die. Jake was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Maybe because you reminded me of my mother. She died when I was young, but I remember how she protected me. You have children? Zara asked. No, Jake said. I've been alone most of my life. I work by myself in space, mining asteroids for metal. Zara studied his face. You seem sad when you talk about being alone, Jake shrugged. It's just how things are. I'm used to it. Over the next few days, Zara grew stronger. Jake had to learn how to take care of someone else, something he had not done in years. He brought her food and water, helped her walk around the base, and listened to her stories about her world. The Althari lived on a planet far from Earth. They were an old race, much older than humans. They had been peaceful for thousands of years, living in harmony with nature and each other. But recently, a group of young Althari had decided that peace was weakness. They wanted to build weapons and conquer other worlds. The war has torn our people apart, Zara explained as they sat in Jake's small kitchen. Families fight against each other. Cities burn. Many have fled to other worlds, but the rebels hunt us down. Why? Jake asked. Because we represent the old ways, the peaceful ways. As long as we exist, some Althari will remember that war is not the answer. Jake watched her eat the simple meal he had prepared. Human food seemed to agree with her, though she ate much less than he did. What about your children? He asked. When will they be born? Zara smiled for the first time since Jake had found her. Soon, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, the biopods will crack open when they are ready. What happens then? Althari children bond. With the first adult they see after birth, that person becomes their parent, even if they are not related by blood. It is how our people have survived for so long. We choose our families based on love and trust, not just biology. Jake felt nervous. What if I'm the first person they see? Zara looked at him seriously. Then you would become their father. They would love you as their parent for the rest of their lives. The idea scared Jake. He had never been responsible for anyone but himself. What did he know about raising children, especially alien children? I don't think I would be a good father, he said. Why not? Zara asked. I don't know how to take care of anyone. I've been alone so long, I've forgotten how to be around people. Zara reached across the table and touched his hand. Her skin was warm and soft. Jake, you saved my life. You brought me to safety. You feed me and help me walk. You listen to my stories and ask about my children. How is that not taking care of someone? Jake had not thought about it that way. For 2 weeks, he had been acting like a caregiver without realizing it. As the days passed, Jake and Zara spent more time together. She taught him words in her language, and he showed her how things worked on the base. She was fascinated by human technology, which was very different from Althari science. Your people build things to last, she said, examining Jake's mining equipment. Althari technology grows and changes like living things, but human tools are strong and reliable. Jake found himself enjoying her company. It had been years since he had talked to anyone for more than a few minutes. Zara was intelligent and kind, with a sense of humor that surprised him. She also helped him prepare for the children's birth. The biopods needed specific temperature and humidity levels. Jake modified his hydroponic garden to create the right environment. They will be small at first, Zara explained, but they grow quickly. Within days, they will be walking and trying to talk. What do they eat? Jake asked. Milk, like human babies, but also fruits and vegetables. They are not dangerous or difficult to care for. One evening, as they watched the stars through the base's observation window, Zara asked Jake about his life. Do you have family on Earth? No, Jake said. My parents died when I was young. I grew up in government homes until I was old enough to work That must have been lonely. It was. That's why I became a miner. Out here, being alone doesn't feel so bad. Zara was quiet for a moment. My children will need a father. I am grateful they will have you. Jake looked at her in surprise. You want me to be their father? Jake, you already are, she said gently. You risked everything to save us. You brought us to safety. You learned how to care for the baby. When my children are born, they will see a man who protected them before they even took their first breath. That night, Jake lay in his bed thinking about what Zara had said. For 34 years, he had been alone. He had convinced himself that he liked it that way. But these past few weeks with Zara had shown him something different. Maybe being alone was not a choice he had made. Maybe it was just something that had happened to him. And maybe, for the first time in his life, he had a chance to have a real family. The biopods were getting brighter every day. Jake could see movement inside them more clearly now. Soon, 3 alien children would crack out of their protective shells and look around for the first time. And Jake Morrison, the lonely asteroid miner, would become their father. Jake was fixing the air recycling system when he heard the first crack. The sound was soft, like an eggshell breaking, but it made his heart race. He dropped his tools and ran to the room where the biopods were kept. One of the 3 containers was glowing brighter than before. A thin line ran down its side, and Jake could see it getting longer as he watched. Inside, something was pushing against the walls. Zara, Jake called out. It's happening! Zara hurried into the room as fast as she could. She was still weak, but her golden eyes were bright with excitement and worry. The first one is ready, she said, kneeling beside the cracking pod. Jake, you must be here when it opens. The child will bond with the first person it sees. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. What if I do something wrong? What if I hurt it? You won't, Zara said calmly. Trust yourself. Trust your heart. The crack in the pod grew wider. Jake could see movement inside, and he heard a soft sound like a bird chirping. His hands were shaking as he knelt down next to Zara. What do I do? He whispered. Just be yourself, Zara said. When the child comes out, speak to it gently. Let it see your face. That's all. The pod split open with a wet sound. Warm liquid spilled out onto the floor, and Jake saw a tiny hand reach through the opening. The hand was pale blue like Zara's skin, but smaller than a human baby's hand. Jake held his breath as the child pulled itself out of the pod. It was about the size of a human newborn, but its movements were stronger and more coordinated. The baby had Zara's blue skin and silver hair, but when it opened its eyes, Jake gasped. The child's eyes were brown just like his own. The baby looked around the room for a moment, blinking in the light. Then its gaze fixed on Jake's face. The child stopped moving and stared at him with curiosity. Hello, little one, Jake said softly. His voice was shaking, but he tried to sound calm. The baby made a soft cooing sound and reached toward Jake with both hands. Without thinking, Jake reached out and gently picked up the child. It was warm and surprisingly light. She has chosen you, Zara whispered, tears in her golden eyes. She is your daughter now. Jake looked down at the tiny alien baby in his arms. She was looking up at him with complete trust, making soft, happy sounds. He had never held a baby before, but somehow it felt natural. What's her name? He asked. Kira, Zara said. It means light of hope in our language. Jake smiled down at little Kira. Hello, Kira, I'm your dad. The word felt strange coming out of his mouth, but also right somehow. Kira seemed to understand, because she grabbed his finger with her tiny hand and held on tight. Over the next few hours, Jake learned how to care for his new daughter. Zara showed him how to clean her and what to feed her. Kira was hungry and drank the special milk that Zara had prepared. She's so small, Jake said as he held Kira while she slept. She will grow quickly, Zara explained. In a few days, she will be crawling. In a week, she will try to walk. That evening, the second pod started cracking. This time, Jake was ready. He sat next to the pod with Kira sleeping in his arms, waiting for his second child to be born. The pod opened more slowly than the first one. The baby inside seemed more cautious. When it finally climbed out, Jake could see it was a boy. He had the same blue skin and silver hair as his sister, but his eyes were different. They were golden like Zara's, but with flecks of brown. The boy looked around nervously, then saw Jake holding Kira. He tilted his head, studying Jake's face carefully. "It's okay," Jake said gently. "I'm here to take care of you." The boy crawled closer to Jake, moving slowly and carefully. When he was close enough, he reached out and touched Jake's arm. Jake shifted Kira to one arm and picked up the boy with the other. "This is Dex," Zara said. "He is more careful than his sister, but just as loving." Dex settled into Jake's arm next to his sister. He was quieter than Kira, but Jake could feel him relaxing as he got used to being held. "2 down, 1 to go," Jake said, though he was already wondering how he would hold 3 babies at once. The third pod waited until the next morning to crack open. Jake had spent the night taking turns with Zara, feeding and caring for Kira and Dex. He was tired but amazed at how quickly he was learning to be a father. When the third pod started opening, Jake was sitting in a chair with both babies on his lap. They were awake and alert, looking around with curious eyes. The third baby was the most active. He practically burst out of his pod, making loud chirping sounds and looking around eagerly. When he saw Jake, he crawled over quickly and tried to climb up Jake's leg. "This one has energy," Jake laughed, carefully lifting the third boy while balancing the other 2 children. "Leo," Zara said with a smile. "He was always the most active, even in the pod." Leo was the smallest of the 3, but he made up for it with enthusiasm. He climbed onto Jake's shoulder and grabbed his hair, chattering in baby talk that sounded almost like words. Okay, Jake said, gently untangling Leo from his hair. "Let's get you something to eat." For the next few days, Jake learned what it meant to be a father to 3 alien babies. They grew incredibly fast, just as Zara had said. By the end of the first week, all 3 were crawling around the base, exploring everything they could reach. Kira was the leader. She was brave and curious, always the first to investigate new things. Dex was the thinker. He watched carefully before trying anything new, and he seemed to understand things quickly. Leo was the entertainer. He was always moving, always making noise, always trying to make everyone laugh. Jake found himself talking to them constantly, explaining what he was doing as he worked around the base. The children seemed to understand more than they should at their age. "They're learning your language very quickly," Zara observed one morning as she watched Jake feed the children breakfast. "They're smart kids," Jake said proudly. "Look at this." He pointed to a wrench on the table. "Tool," he said to the children. "Tool," Kira repeated clearly. "Tool, tool." Dex and Leo chimed in. Zara shook her head in amazement. "They should not be talking this clearly for several more weeks." "Maybe they're special," Jake said, picking up Leo, who was trying to climb into his food bowl. "Or maybe they have a very good teacher," Zara said softly. By the second week, the children were walking. Jake had to put safety barriers around the base to keep them from getting into dangerous areas. They followed him everywhere, chattering in a mixture of English and Althari words. One morning, Jake was working on his ship's engine when he heard a word that made him stop. "Dada!" Kira called out, toddling over to him with her arms raised. Jake's heart skipped a beat. He looked over at Zara, who was smiling with tears in her eyes. "Da-da-da!" Dex and Leo joined in, rushing over to Jake as fast as their little legs could carry them. Jake knelt down and gathered all 3 children in his arms. They hugged him tightly, still repeating "Dada" over and over. "I guess that settles it," Jake said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm really their father now." "You were their father from the moment you decided to save us," Zara said. "This just makes it official." That night, after the children were asleep, Jake sat looking out at the stars. 3 months ago, he had been alone in space, convinced that solitude was what he wanted. Now he had 3 children who called him Dada and looked at him like he was the most important person in the universe. "Are you happy?" Zara asked. Sitting down beside him, Jake thought about the question. He was tired, overwhelmed, and completely out of his depth. He had no idea what he was doing half the time. But when Kira laughed at his silly faces, when Dex solved the puzzle, when Leo climbed onto his shoulders for a hug, Jake felt something he had never experienced before. "Yeah," he said finally. "I think I am." For the first time in his life, Jake Morrison was not alone. He was a father. 6 months had passed since the children were born. Jake's quiet life on the hidden moon base had become busy and loud, filled with the sounds of 3 growing children. Kira, Dex, and Leo were now walking, talking, and getting into everything. They could reach. Jake was teaching them how to use basic tools when his ship's alarm started screaming. The sound was so loud and sudden that all 3 children started crying. Jake quickly picked them up, trying to calm them while rushing to the control room. "What's wrong?" Zara asked, following him with worry in her golden eyes. Jake looked at his scanner screen and felt his blood turn cold. 3 large ships were approaching the moon, moving fast and heading straight for his base. "We have company," Jake said grimly. "Big ships, military class." Zara looked at the screen and her face went pale. She recognized the ship designs immediately. "Alvari rebels," she whispered. "They found us." Jake's mind raced. His mining ship was fast, but it was no match for 3 military vessels. The base had no weapons, and there was nowhere to hide on the small moon. "How did they track us?" he asked the escape pod. Zara said, her voice shaking. "I thought the tracking system was destroyed, but they must have repaired enough of it to follow the trail." The children sensed the fear in the adults' voices. Kira wrapped her small arms around Jake's neck, while Dex and Leo clung to his legs. "Dada scared?" Kira asked in her small voice. "No, baby," Jake lied, trying to sound calm. "Dada is just thinking." A voice crackled over the communication system, speaking in the musical Althari language. Zara translated quickly. "They're demanding that I surrender. They want to take me back for trial and execution." "What about the children?" Jake asked. Zara's face grew even more pale. "They consider the children future threats. They want to eliminate our bloodline completely." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. These were his children now. He had raised them, fed them, taught them their first words. No one was going to hurt them. "Get the kids ready to travel," he told Zara. "We're leaving now." "Jake, we can't outrun military ships." Zara protested. "Maybe not in open space," Jake said, already moving toward the hangar. "But I know these asteroid fields better than anyone. I've been mining here for 5 years. Jake quickly loaded supplies onto his ship while Zara gathered the children's things. The kids could sense the urgency and stayed close to their parents, their large eyes wide with worry. "Where are we going, Dada?" Leo asked as Jake strapped him into a safety seat. "On an adventure," Jake said, forcing a smile. "A very important adventure." The Lucky Strike launched just as the first enemy ship reached the moon. Jake pushed his engines as hard as they would go, diving into the asteroid field that surrounded the moon. Behind them, energy beams lit up space as the rebel ships opened fire. Jake twisted and turned between the floating rocks, using every trick he had learned in years of dangerous mining work. "They're gaining on us," Zara said, watching the scanner. Jake gritted his teeth and flew deeper into the asteroid field, where the rocks were thicker and more dangerous. One wrong move would smash them against the asteroid, but the bigger ships would have an even harder time following. The children were scared but trying to be brave. Dex held Kira's hand while Leo clutched his favorite toy tool that Jake had made for him. "Dada, keep us safe," Kira declared with fierce certainty. That strong, her faith in him gave Jake strength. He had to protect his family. Nothing else mattered. For 3 hours, Jake played a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the asteroids. He used his mining knowledge to find hiding spots in the shadows of large rocks, then dart out when the enemy ships passed by. But his ship was taking damage. The hull was scratched from flying too close to rough asteroid surfaces, and his engines were overheating from the constant strain. During a brief moment when they were hidden behind a large asteroid, Zara spoke quietly to Jake. "There's something I haven't told you about my family," she said. "I am not just any Althari. My bloodline is royal. I am a princess of the Old Kingdom." Jake stared at her. "You're royalty. My children carry the genes of the ancient ruling family. In the old days, our bloodline was chosen by the people to lead because we could unite different groups and bring peace. That's why the rebels want you dead," Jake realized. "Yes, As long as my children live, some Althery will remember the peaceful way. The rebels want to destroy any symbol of the old kingdom. Another energy beam flashed past their hiding spot. The enemy ships were getting closer. What if we go to Earth? Jake asked suddenly. My people don't know about the war. Maybe they would. Help! Zara looked shocked. First contact between our species. That's incredibly dangerous. It could start a war between Earth and the Althery rebels. Or it could save us, Jake said. Earth has a strong military. If I can convince them that you and the children are innocent refugees, maybe they'll protect you. Before Zara could answer, the asteroid they were hiding behind exploded in a shower of rock and dust. The rebel ships had found them. Hold on, Jake shouted, pushing his engines to maximum power. The Lucky Strike shot out from behind the destroyed asteroid, racing toward open space. The three enemy ships followed, firing continuously. Jake's ship shook as energy beams hit the rear shields. Warning lights flashed on his control panel. They were not going to escape this time. Die! Dex asked in a small voice. Bad men want to hurt Mama. Jake looked back at his three children, strapped into their seats and looking at him with complete trust. They believed their Dada could protect them from anything. Yeah, buddy, Jake said, but Dada won't let them. He made a decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to hide or run, Jake turned his ship toward Earth's solar system and opened a communication channel. This is Jake Morrison, human citizen registration number 7749 Alpha. He said into the transmitter, I am requesting immediate assistance from Earth Defense Command. I am carrying alien refugees, including 3 children, and we are under attack by hostile forces. He sent the message on all emergency frequencies, hoping someone on Earth would hear it and respond. Behind them, the rebel ships were closing in. Their weapons were charging for what would probably be the final attack. Zara reached over and took Jake's hand. Whatever happens, thank you for giving my children a father who loves them. Jake squeezed her hand. They're our children, and this isn't over yet. Suddenly, Jake's communication system crackled to life. A strong female voice answered his distress call. Jake Morrison, this is Admiral Lisa Carter of Earth Defense Command. We have received your message and are tracking your position. Can you confirm you are carrying first contact aliens? Confirmed, Jake replied quickly. 1 adult female and 3 children. They are peaceful refugees fleeing a civil war. They need protection. Understood. Maintain your current heading toward Earth. We are dispatching ships to intercept. Hurry, Jake said as another energy beam narrowly missed his ship. The hostiles are right behind us. In the back seats, the children listened to their father talk to this strange new voice. They didn't understand all the words, but they could hear the hope in his voice. Earth people help Dada, Kira asked. I hope so, sweetheart, Jake said. I really hope so. The Lucky Strike continued, racing toward Earth, carrying the most important cargo in Jake's life. Behind them, the rebel ships followed, determined to finish what they had started. Ahead lay Earth's solar system and the possibility of safety. But it also meant first contact between humans and aliens would happen in the middle of a space battle. With the lives of Jake's family hanging in the balance, Jake held the controls steady and flew toward his home world, praying that humanity would choose to protect 3 innocent alien children and the woman he had come to love. The Earth defense ships appeared on Jake's scanner just as his engines started failing. 6 sleek military vessels moved into formation around the Lucky Strike, their weapons pointed at the pursuing rebel ships. Jake Morrison, this is Admiral Carter, the voice crackled over the radio. We have you surrounded by a protective formation. The hostile ships are being ordered to leave Earth space immediately. Jake felt relief wash over him as he saw the Earth ships take defensive positions. His children were still strapped in their seats, looking out the windows with wide eyes at the human vessels. Big ships! Leo pointed excitedly. Earth ships, Jake told him. They're here to help us. The Althery rebel ships slowed down when they saw the human fleet. Jake could hear them talking on the communication channels, though he couldn't understand their language. Zara listened and translated. They're surprised, she said. They didn't expect humans to have such advanced ships or to respond so quickly. Admiral Carter's voice came over the radio again, but this time she was speaking to the rebel ships. She had someone translating her words into Aldari. Unknown vessels, you are in violation of Earth space. You will cease your attack on the refugee ship and withdraw immediately, or we will consider your actions an act of war. The rebel ships hesitated. Jake could see them on his scanner, holding their position but not retreating. One of the rebel commanders responded in broken English, "Give us the traitor and her spawn. This is Althari business, not human concern." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. No one was going to call his children spawn. Admiral Carter's response was firm and clear. The refugees are under Earth protection. Any attack on them will be considered an attack on Earth itself. You have 60 seconds to withdraw. The rebel ships moved into attack formation, their weapons charging. Jake realized they were going to fight rather than retreat. "They're not backing down," he told Admiral Carter. "We can see that," the Admiral replied. "Jake, take your family and head for Earth immediately. We'll handle this." Jake pushed his damaged engines and flew toward Earth while the two fleets faced each other in space. Behind him, he could hear the radio chatter as both sides prepared for battle. "Dada, why bad ships follow us?" Kira asked. "Because they're scared of how special you are," Jake told her. "But Earth people will protect us now." The battle was short but intense. Jake watched on his rear scanner as energy beams flashed between the ships. The human vessels were smaller but faster, and their tactics confused the rebel commanders who were used to fighting other Althari. One rebel ship took heavy damage and retreated. The other two held their ground until Admiral Carter ordered a focused attack on their lead vessel. When their flagship was disabled, the remaining rebel ship fled the solar system. "Hostile vessels have withdrawn," Admiral Carter announced. "Jake Morrison, please follow our escort ships to Earth Station Alpha. We need to debrief you and process your refugees." 2 hours later, Jake's ship docked at the massive space station orbiting Earth. He had never seen so many people in one place. The station was busy with military personnel, scientists, and government officials, all excited about humanity's first contact with aliens. Jake carried Leo while Kira and Dex walked beside him, holding tightly to his hands. Zara walked next to them, looking nervous but trying to stay calm for the children's sake. They were met by Admiral Carter, a tall woman with graying hair and kind but serious eyes. She looked at the family with obvious curiosity and concern. "Mr. Morrison," she said, shaking Jake's hand, "you've certainly made history today. First contact with an alien species, and you bring us a mother and 3 children. They're refugees," Jake said firmly. "They just need somewhere safe to live." Admiral Carter looked at the children, who were staring at all the humans around them with wide eyes. Leo waved at a security guard, who smiled and waved back. "Cute kids," the Admiral said. "They look like they trust you completely." "I'm there, Father," Jake said proudly. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. "Adoptive father, in every way that matters," Jake replied. Over the next few hours, Jake and Zara were interviewed by teams of scientists, diplomats, and military officials. The children stayed with Jake the whole time, sitting on his lap or playing quietly nearby. Dr. Helen Ross, a xenobiologist, was particularly interested in how the children had bonded with Jake. "This is fascinating," she said, watching Dex solve a puzzle while sitting next to Jake. "The children show complete trust and attachment to you, despite being a different species." "Love doesn't care about species," Jake said simply. The interviews revealed the complexity of the situation. Zara's royal status made her politically important, and her children represented hope for peace in the Althari Civil War. But it also made them targets for the rebels. "We can't send them back," Admiral Carter said during a private meeting with Earth's leaders. "It would be a death sentence. But keeping them here could make Earth a target," argued General Brooks, the head of planetary defense. Jake listened to the debate with growing frustration. These were his children they were discussing, not political problems to be solved. "With respect," Jake interrupted, "these kids didn't ask to be born into a war. They're just children who need a safe place to grow up. Admiral Carter looked at him thoughtfully. What are you proposing, Mr. Morrison? Let us stay on Earth, Jake said. I'll take responsibility for them. I'll teach them human ways while Zara teaches them about their own culture. Maybe someday they can help bring peace to their people. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Dr. Ross spoke up. Actually, that might be the best solution. The children are already bonded to Jake as their father. Separating them now would be traumatic for everyone involved. Admiral Carter nodded slowly, and having peaceful alien ambassadors living among us could help prepare humanity for future contact with other species. The decision was made. Jake Morrison and his alien family would be given citizenship and protection on Earth. In return, Zara would serve as an ambassador, helping humanity understand the wider galaxy. 6 months later, Jake sat on the porch of his new house in a quiet town outside Denver. The government had given them a place to live where they could have privacy while still being protected. Kira was in the backyard, teaching human children from the neighborhood how to play an Althery game. Dex was inside reading, switching easily between human books and Althery texts that Zara had written for him. Leo was trying to climb a tree, chattering happily to himself in both languages. Zara came out of the house and sat beside Jake. She was pregnant again, carrying their fourth child. This one would be half human and half Falthery, a bridge between two worlds. Do you ever regret finding us that day? She asked, watching their children play. Jake thought about his old life as a lonely asteroid miner. Then he looked at his family, happy and safe under the Earth's sky. Never, he said, taking her hand. Best decision I ever made. Kira ran over to them, her face bright with excitement. Dada, Mama! The human kids want to learn Althery words. Can you teach them? Jake laughed and picked up his daughter. Of course, sweetheart. What words do they want to know? Family, Kira said seriously. They want to know how to say family in our language. Zithara, Zara said softly. It means chosen family, bound by love. Zithara, the human children repeated, practicing the new word. Jake smiled as he watched human and alien children playing together, already becoming friends despite their differences. His 3 kids had called him Dada from their first words, and now they were helping build bridges between entire species. From a lonely miner to a father to an ambassador for interspecies peace. Jake Morrison had found his purpose in the most unexpected way, and it all started with 3 small containers in a damaged escape pod, and a choice to help rather than walk away. Family really could transcend any boundary, even the vastness of space itself.